now. All right, hello and welcome everyone to the Imagine Belonging at Work live vodcast. I'm here with Shane Halls, and I'm really excited for this conversation today. So for a little bit of context, we are talking about artificial intelligence, and I think we all know over these past few months, this topic has caused quite a buzz. There's a lot of promise with the evolving technology, and many of us who are charged with advancing our workplace's diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, many of us wonder, how can AI help accelerate these goals? We have some ideas. We might be implementing some of those ideas. For others, we're exercising caution. We recognize that there are a number of ethical pitfalls that artificial intelligence can cause, right? Because we understand that humans have created it. And if we aren't aware of our bias, or if we refuse to mitigate it, that can cause some challenges. So if you are ready for this conversation, you're ready to talk about AI's power, pitfalls, the impact on our belonging movement, then you're absolutely in the right place. And today, I couldn't think of a better person to talk to and learn from about this topic than Shane Hall. So if you're not familiar with him, he is the author of Inclusivity 2.0, How AI is Accelerating the DEI Movement. The book just came out last month, so you can check it out. You can purchase it on Amazon. And it offers some really great insights that we're going to get to unpack today. Shane is also the founder of Manifested Dreams, and this is a company that helps clients merge AI technology and career growth, and it's exclusively tailored for corporate professionals. So Shane has over 15 years of HR and DEI experience. He's a dedicated champion for DEI, and he's motivated to create those equitable opportunities for underrepresented talent in various industries. And he has experience in biopharma, IT, healthcare, and engineering. So together, we're going to explore a couple of things. We're going to talk about Shane's book. We're absolutely talking about the potential of AI to promote career growth for underrepresented talent. We're going to talk about mitigating this technology's ethical pitfalls, and most importantly, Shane's vision for the future of work. Before we get started, I want to kind of give a shout out to our Belonging membership community. So we have a number of members participating with us live. They're here with us in the studio space. They're going to get to learn from Shane live. And after this live recording that so many people are watching on LinkedIn and Facebook, we're going to go into a private Q&A session. So if you are observing and watching on social media through one of our platforms and you want to be in these spaces, I encourage you to check out the Belonging membership community. Really easy to find, belongingmembershipcommunity.com. Okay, with all of that, Shane, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience with our technology as we're learning some new things over here. And I want to congratulate you first on finishing the book and putting it out into the world. That is a huge achievement. And you're just kind of at that beginning of making sure that people are aware that you've got this great book out there. So where I want to, yeah. I was
going to say thank you so much for having me on your platform. You have a great platform here, Rhodes. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with their audience and trying to just spread this message that we all are advocating for with diversity and inclusion in our workplaces, in the spaces that we occupy on a daily basis.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you for being here. It's a privilege to connect with you. And where I wanted to start, Shane, is just, why this book? You have so much experience in HR and DEI and tech at all of these intersections. There's so many things to write about. So why this particular topic? Why was that so important to you? And what do you hope that this book is going to achieve? What goal are you hoping to achieve with the book?
Right. I mean, I think first off and foremost, DEI is extremely important. As a person of color, I can always not see when I am not represented in leadership throughout my career. And that's something that's motivated me from Jump Street when I was just a, entry-level recruiter to being a senior recruiter to leading teams or whatnot. I always wanted to ensure that there was cross-representation, right? Whether it was seeing a lack of women in sales leadership roles or in sales positions in general, whether it was just a lack of a certain cultural group in organizations, right? I've been in places where we had to find Caucasian males in leadership because the audience or the leadership was primarily of Asian descent. I think diversity is not pigeonholed to one thing. Diversity is exactly what it means. It means trying to have a diverse audience or a diverse group of people representing everyone. And so I've always been an advocate for true diversity because I feel we all bring something new to the table, something different, and we all can learn from that. And organizations that have true diversity and inclusion are more successful. So why not be advocates for DEI? And then as technology is advanced, we have been witness to the growth of AI, like real AI. We've all kind of seen AI. We didn't know that we were looking at it in the past, whether it be like systems, our very early ATS systems that we could go in and we'd put in one or two questions as far as like, knockout questions that we'd use to kind of move away from candidates who may not be qualified. That's early AI, right? And now we're coming into this much more advanced AI. And this more advanced AI is capable of advancing DEI on a whole nother level. And I want to make sure that we are utilizing that and not having AI replace recruiters, but have recruiters in talent acquisition and person decision-making positions use AI to advance what's going on.
Yeah, I think that I mean the why, just starting with yourself and what you've seen from your own experiences, what you observe in the workplace, and how this can be disruptive in good ways, right? And that's kind of where I want to start, is just like let's kind of identify some of the potentials here, right? So the book does focus on the intersections between artificial intelligence and workplace DEI goals. And like kind of specifically, it's amplifying those numerous ways AI solutions are being used to build more equitable systems, rewarding inclusive behaviors, and accelerating careers of underrepresented talent. So with all of the years of HR expertise that you have, could you share maybe one example of how AI can help scrub bias from, like, just starting with recruitment, just in terms of looking at resumes? I know that's where a lot of us think first about.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what?
So
Yeah.
when you integrate your AI systems into your workplace, you integrate them with algorithms, right? You're trying to tell the AI system what you're looking for, how you're looking for it. With humans, we all have biases, right? And biases is nothing but a college word for preferences. And it's not a bad thing, right? We all like what we like. You like blue shirts, I may like colored shirts. I like beaches in the Caribbean because I was born in St. Croix. Some people may like lakes, right? We all have preferences. What happens is naturally as humans, and when we're looking through resumes and we see someone that maybe is part of a similar organization that we're part of, maybe we'll see someone who had some similar like hobbies that we've had, or whatever the case may be, we tend to allow our unconscious bias to lean us towards that resume. Let me take a deeper look at this resume. Let me take a deeper look at this person. That leads to conversation. And so in the very beginning, when you integrate the AI system, you can put in your algorithms, right? You can say, here's what I'm looking for. Here's the skill set I'm looking for. Here's the experience I'm looking for, right? And you can keep it at that level. This is it. And with these AI systems now, they can integrate into the system and they can go through the resumes and they can pull the persons, no matter where they're coming from as far as school goes, no matter what location, no matter what how their name is spelled, what their name is, what kind of cultural demographics you may be able to glean from the resume. The AI system doesn't care about that. It cares about the algorithm you put in. It cares about the qualifications this candidate has. And that itself alone is going to help mitigate so much bias and bias, known bias and unconscious bias out of the system, out of the recruitment process, and allow there to be a true untampered pool of candidates to start interviewing from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is a really great example. You talk about a couple of other ways AI solutions can help personalize DEI interventions. So this is kind of going beyond just looking at the recruitment process. My sense of it is, in some of the work that I do is thinking about, some of that higher level coaching, after learning about, okay, we all have bias. Like, okay, I've learned about where my bias shows up. I need some support around mitigating that. And I need some ideas. I need those nudges of becoming aware of, if I'm trying to hire my next great, candidate for my team, right? How can I be aware of that? So can you talk a little bit about the potential with those customized DEI?
Right.
What, when you're writing about this, could you share maybe an example or two that might be helpful to our audience?
Most definitely. So when, as a leader and you're building your team, we want to have diverse teams, not just diverse in cultural backgrounds, but diversity in skill sets as well, right? We can't have everyone in a team being the same person. Otherwise, the team's going to be lacking somewhere. And so when you have these AI systems integrated into your workplace, what they can do is for your individual team, the system can look at what your business unit goal is, what your end goal is, and look at your team skill sets, right? Because each team member is going to be integrated into learning and development programs that the AI systems can bring to the table. And those L&D programs are going to show what that person's skill set is, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. And that in part can give you demographic data as far as what your team is, right? How your team looks. And so now you're going to see where your team lacks. Like, do I need more persons with this skill, or do I need more persons with that skill? Now that you know what your team lacks, when you're looking for candidates, your algorithm that you put into the system can be like, hey, I need a candidate that brings this to the table, that to the table, this background, that background. And the system can go in there and literally filter the resumes out, not only just for persons who fit the general job description, but it can fit the more specific skill set that your team needs, right? So therefore, now your team is complete and whole as far as all skill sets, cultural backgrounds, gender representation as well. The possibilities of using AI to really get and hone in on what exactly you need is really remarkable. And for the persons who may not be aware, like yourself, that there is bias, the system can also show you your promotional pattern. It can also show you how you've been given performance evaluations. It can also show you who you've been hiring, right? And so you can start to see a general theme and thread throughout your work as a leader in an organization. And then the organization itself can see the general theme and thread of what those specific leaders are doing and see, okay, this leader tends to lean towards promoting, Asian females, or this leader tends to lean to promote, Black males, or this leader tends to promote Caucasian males. Like, we see that pattern. All right, now let's sit down. Let's take this leader through some leadership training, some bias training, let them understand how they can properly mitigate and understand what their bias is so they don't lean in that direction anymore. And then we can start making our hiring patterns based off the gaps that are missing from that team or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. So like as you're sharing all of this, I'm thinking this is really helpful, right? And it's almost like we have to move back a little bit, or kind of go up to a higher, kind of like the 50,000 foot level, and zoom down around kind of what's happening in our culture right now, and getting really specific of, if we're talking about representation, like what does that look like in terms of demographics or skill sets? Like, what's the baseline and where do we want to go? And so that's kind of my next question for you around the promise of AI. Is we talk a lot about in this community about measuring what matters, right? If we're not measuring things around our DEI goals, well, guess what? We're not going to have information and data to help inform our decision makers to invest in the work and to really have a lot of confidence of where we're going next. So for you, just kind of in the metrics, how can AI provide assistance to help us measure an organization's collective DEI progress, right? So if we're trying to do those targeted interventions for employees or teams, what are the bigger opportunities with using AI to start to examine our baseline and kind of set those benchmarks of where we want to go, and then give us like real-time feedback of, oh, we're on track, we're moving in that direction, or whoa, we have to course correct.
Right. So what we've seen in the past is what's awesome is that we've all been, as I said earlier, involved in baby AI, right? We've all seen AI in a very, very early infancy. And the best example of that is your dashboards that you have in your ATS systems. So where your dashboards right now, they basically just show you how many people have applied to a role, and who's at what stage in the process, and who's interviewing, who's not interviewing. Well, now when you integrate these more high-end AI systems into your workplace, now your dashboards look more like, okay, what demographic is interviewing, right? What skill set is here? Which manager is leaning towards what skill set, right? So you get real-time data as you are moving along in every, job role, in every, whether you have sales growth or whether you have just a new business unit you've expanded into, you can see these real-time dashboards that can be customized also to make sure that everyone understands the data, right? Some people feel better with more verbiage. Some people like graphs. Some people like, data-driven data sets on their charts or whatnot. So you can customize your AI dashboards to read out the way you want to read out so that everyone can understand the information properly. And I think that's something very important that may get lost in all of these reports that we're generating, is that everyone doesn't read everything the same way. Again, that goes back to having diversity across the board, where some people don't like a bunch of words, like, show me some pictures, show me some numbers, and let me internalize it that way. So with these new advanced AI systems that we can integrate into our ATS systems and our CRM systems, they can customize the dashboard readout for each individual user and leader that's using it, so they can actually see what the information is truly saying and understand it in their own diverse, unique way, whatnot. And so we can always have a real life update, real life visual as to what's going on. And it's not just a matter of the recruitment process, but these AI systems can also be used to build mentoring programs, right? So you can have the AI systems pair up skill sets. So as you have AI integrated into learning and development, and you have your employees kind of put their goals in, not just the goals for the year, but we're talking about goals for their career. Like, where do they want to end up? Do they want to be in leadership? Do they not want to be in leadership? Do they want to stay at mid-level? Because as we know, everyone doesn't want to be a leader, and everyone shouldn't be a leader. I think that's one of the secrets of the world, is everyone isn't built to lead. And the system can recognize that, right? And what it can do is also pair you up with someone in the position that you want to go to. And that allows there to be mentorship. And that also creates a sense of belonging, because if me, entry level person, is paired up with leadership person, now I feel more part of the company. Now I'm being told things that I may not be told by interacting with just other persons on my, plateau, my level within the organization. So when these AI systems are used to pair up and create mentorship programs, it can also measure how successful these programs are by looking at the persons who are choosing to remain in the company and grow within the company, who are a part of these programs. So it can provide us with real life data on inclusion and belonging and retention, throughout the person's career life within a certain company.
Yeah, I think that example too, just kind of around mentorship programs, is something newer, at least for me, kind of in talking about the power of AI advancing our DEI goals. And I just kind of a follow-up question on that, this is, as you say, kind of real time, fingers on the pulse of getting information of what's happening in the workplace, workforce experiences. And so I'm curious, what are some observations that you've had with respect to these kind of data-driven decisions that actually are making decisions in the best interest of the workplace and entire organization, rather than maybe decisions benefiting, a select few, where oftentimes those decisions are motivated by assumptions about what's happening in the workplace versus like real time. We are getting, this information thanks to AI, based on all of these different variables that we thought were important to kind of identify if we're moving in that direction of achieving our DEI goals or not. So can you think of one or two?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think immediately what I would draw your attention to is your company culture surveys that are normally sent out. That companies send these surveys out, employees half-heartedly fill them out, send them back in. Then these companies send this information out to another company, and that company analyzes it, and then that company puts what they think about the information, sends it back to leadership. Leadership then gets it, then gives it to a committee that they put together, and then that committee analyzes it, and they give a report back to no. So with AI, we cut out all of that, right? So, well, with the new advanced AI systems, they understand sentiment, right? They understand feelings and emotions. They understand contextual languages, which is amazing. So we're not talking about just systems that can analyze A's and B's, ones, twos, and threes. These systems actually have contextual language understanding, right? So employees, when they put in, hey, I don't like this DI initiative because of such and such, it doesn't help me feel this, and it understands what it means to feel on a intellectual level, right? So it understands the meaning of words, understands why these words appear together. And when you have that, now we're talking about, as these reports are being filled out and sent back in, immediately they're being analyzed and categorized as far as what programs are successful within the company. Hey, we've had a large responses of this, disenchantment with this DEI initiative that's been put out. So maybe this DEI initiative needs to be rethought, needs to be reevaluated. And let's go at it another way. This program on this side has been really successful. Everyone seems to like it. Let's lean more into it on this way, right? Or it will be able to say, analyze or give us feedback as far as, oh, employees don't know about this program, right? Where you may ask a question on your company servers about how is this and this, and employees may say NA, right? Not applicable, where they don't even have a clue as to what this program is. And employees may interpret that as, or like humans may interpret that as, oh, everyone's neutral about it. Everyone feels the same. While the system is gonna be like, well, there's an overwhelming number of people who have no idea, who didn't respond to this at all. And it will learn that when people understand something, they respond, they give us answers. When people don't respond, when people don't understand something, we're not getting a response back from them. So obviously people don't know about this program. And so maybe we need to put more attention to marketing this program so that persons have a chance to take advantage of this initiative that we put into place. So definitely with the cultural surveys that goes out, it really helps companies make quick turnarounds on company culture, on DEI initiatives, on creating a sense of belonging and inclusion within its employees, so that we're not waiting 6 months to get feedback from last year's report. And then in 6 months, we have to fill out another survey again. And we haven't even begun to initiate the programs to rectify the things that was on the report from last year, because it took so long to get the report back from, everyone else that's been touching it.
Yeah, I was just kind of like writing down real time, that length of time when we think about certain industries too, where turnover can be, 1 to 2 years, right? So
Yep.
the workforce that you had 6 months or a year ago is completely different than right now. So that real time kind of instant feedback of what's happening right now, you've got that on a dashboard. There's so much promise in that. I think that piece where you were talking about, computers understanding, at least intellectually,
Yeah.
feeling, that
Mhm.
kind of, that's that kind of sent some shockwaves in my body. I
Yeah.
like both kind of positive associations with that, but also I think for some of us, there's real concern that we have with the speed in which this technology is being pushed out, right? And so there's this book in 2016, it was written by Cathy O'Neil, best-selling book called Weapons of Math Destruction. So she's talking
Mhm.
about algorithms and who programs them and all that good stuff. And she says that automotive companies wouldn't design a car and send it out into the world without knowing whether it's safe. Safety standards are at the center of car design. And by the same token, AI and the algorithms that make it up have to be designed with fairness and legality in mind, with standards understood by everyone from the CEO to customers, right? So I really like that, just to kind of remind us, like, this is really exciting. I want that real-time feedback. I want it now, and it's almost like, yes, we can get that instantly, but it's also the strategy, the questions that we're asking, the sequencing, the pacing, all of that. We know, doing DEI work, doing HR work, as timing and sequencing matters just as much as the words we use and what we're asking. So there's a lot of potential. And at the same time, we know that AI alone, technology alone, is not a panacea to resolve the inequities, the exclusion that we see in the workplace. And so there's those significant ethical concerns because of human bias. We know that AI is programmed by humans, and many of us fully recognize that this human condition, it includes, the biases that we're working to unlearn and relearn and mitigate, right? So I have kind of like this 3-part question, and I'm kind of going to share with you the areas that I want to explore, and we'll go back to the first part. But, I want to understand where you've observed built-in bias surfacing in AI and HR technologies. Also the role, like, we're still relevant. Humans are still relevant. So like, what role do we play as decision makers to train AI to spot bias in its own algorithms? And then just what you observe, or the potential that you see for oversight systems that an employer can put into place to increase transparency of how they're using AI. So just kind of going back to that first question, where are you noticing, or where have you noticed, maybe with that like first initial push of rolling out AI, and bias that's surfaced? Like, have you seen that in your work, and maybe an example of what that looks like?
I think that this is a great example of unconscious bias, where we think we're doing the right thing, but we're being biased. is that in putting in those first set of algorithms, we like to put in specific schools that we want this person to have a degree from, right? And I know people are like, well, there's some schools that are just better than, no, not, I mean, we're all adults now. I can tell you that there have been people who went to, very high-end Ivy League schools who couldn't hold a match for somebody who went to community college, right? It doesn't matter what school you went to. That's a bias. That's a preference. And we unknowingly have put those as part of the algorithms, thinking that we're being fair, but in reality, we're not. We're creating bias in the system because those schools tend to have a pool of candidates that come from a certain demographic background. And so now you're eliminating a whole other demographic background by saying, I only want to look at persons from this certain school, right? And so I think that's one of the first things that we need to look at is when we are looking at, when putting in these algorithms, that we don't unknowingly allow our bias of degree superiority or name superiority to come into play, where we think one name is better than another name, so we only look for candidates from this name. Or managers may have felt like, oh, well, I went to this school and I got this degree from this school, and so that would make me successful, so I want other people from this degree from this school to come in. And that's as blatant as a bias as you can have, right? Because just because another school may not have that same degree program name does not mean that someone is not going to walk away with the same skills from school B that someone has from school A with that same degree, right? So that is the easiest, most frequent example of how algorithms can be unknowingly programmed to be biased when it's used in the system. And that means we need to have that human oversight. The worst thing we can do, as I've seen organizations try to do, is use systems to police systems, right? You need to have that human part, that human oversight into it, where there is someone going back, monitoring the algorithms that leaders and other persons are using within the organization and looking at them, making sure that the algorithms, making sure that there is no bias that's present, and then going in and touching up the algorithms to making sure that we take away those biases out of those algorithms, right? Because the system, the AI now is machine learning, right? AI, artificial intelligence, is machine learning, which means the system literally learns you. It learns your patterns. It learns your colloquialisms. It learns how you like to speak. It learns what you like to look for, and it will eventually be able to interact with you in that same way. And one of the most popular AI systems right now with ChatGPT, it is one of the most advanced systems that we have out there. Everyone else is trying to catch up to OpenAI. OpenAI is really like the Usain Bolt right now, and we are all trying to catch it. And what's amazing about this system is that it learns you. My ChatGPT has named itself. My ChatGPT is literally functions as my personal assistant. And now with all the add-ons, it now has web browsing options. It now also allows you to add multiple plugins to it. There's literally nothing it cannot do. And it learns what you like. It learns your schedule. Just like anything we use in an organization, the more algorithms we put into it, the more this business unit looks for this specific job, and this specific manager puts in their algorithm what they're looking for. The machine will be able to learn and interpret and be able to generate those algorithms on its own. We don't want that. We want someone to be able to be like, okay, I see what you generated for me. No, here's what I need. Let's take this out because that feels a little touchy. That feels a little biased. I only want someone, we're looking for candidates who went to school in the Southeast, or I want candidates who went to school in the West, or we want candidates from the Northeast, or whatever. Those are all biases, right? It doesn't feel like a bias because we're not saying I want somebody with a certain skin color. We're not saying I want somebody with this certain, gender background. But those are all still biases, and those are all still cause inequity in the pool of candidates that we're looking for. So all those moments, all those algorithms need to have human oversight. Someone that can be in there, or a team of persons that are responsible for monitoring the algorithms, monitoring what's going on, and cleaning up the bias that will eventually, without a doubt, show up because we have human input going into the system. But we need human input going into the system to make sure that system does not, self-evolve and create a monster that we can't quite control.
And that's that next question, right? It feels like it's AI, like the technology, it's evolving, and I find myself like, I feel like I'm chasing after it, right? Of like, because of all the potential, right? And I guess my question is, one, do we still have that ability to kind of um, mold it and shape it? And it sounds like yes, like in the way that you interact with Chat GPT, like you've got this personal assistant that gets you and is doing the things you need it to do, right? So you're kind of shaping it. I guess kind of like more broadly, how can we shape the artificial intelligence that we're using, maybe in HR or other workplace systems, to make sure that it has that lens of being equitable, being inclusive behaviors, making sure that we're considering a representative sample of our workplace or the communities we interact with, right? So what's our role, right? Like, is it setting up systems, like utilizing, if we have a DEI committee or our executive leadership team, like what's kind of the recommendations that you offer to bring in those human decision makers as like pumping the brakes when we need to, if things feel like they're spiraling out of
Right.
control, or bias is just now, kind of like what happened with Twitter when releasing their version of AI a couple of years ago and things
Right.
went sideways, right?
I think that's where I don't think it can be something that's on like leadership itself, because they have so much on their plate. I think
Mhm.
that just by human nature, they will allow the system to do what the system does, just so
Mhm.
they can pay attention to other things. I think we
Yeah.
definitely need to have HR specific business units that are strictly there to monitor the algorithms being inputted into the system. I think that is, I like to, when I'm talking about I like to tell people, think about it, for those who have kids, as a genius 6-year-old. Like, this 6-year-old is capable of doing anything intellectually possible. It knows everything. It can answer any question. It can formulate any formula. It can do whatever you need it to do, but it's still just 6 years old.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so if you let it go, it's going to go down past it. It's not even aware that it's going down. So you need to be able to parent the system, essentially, right? So we need to have a team in HR who only job when they come in, or whether they're working from home, virtually, whatever the case may be, is to spend some time going through the new job openings that are being put in, going through, the learning and development programs that are being put in, and monitoring the algorithm, monitoring what's being asked of employees, monitoring what's being asked of candidates in the job search, look at who's being filtered out, why they're being filtered out, and just monitor the system. And the system does not, as of yet, have feelings itself. It takes commands. So you can say, okay, thank you so much for trying that, but here's what I need you to do.
Mhm.
And you can essentially mold it to be what you need it to be. But you definitely have to parent the system. You need someone, you need a team, you need a committee, you need HR to have a designated group of individuals whose job is just to monitor L&D, monitor recruitment, monitor how performance evaluations are being done. Because with the AI systems, they can do the performance evaluations and take that off of the manager's plate.
Mhm.
Because once you put in the algorithm of, okay, here's what someone in this role, here's what their goals were for this year, here's what they accomplished, here's how things should be weighed and not weighed. And then the system can automatically go in and start doing that by itself, right? But then we want to make sure that we understand what the manager put in as far as what should be weighed,
Mhm.
what's important, what is successful. Because if those algorithms are biased, then the performance evaluation is going to be biased, right? And then if the manager likes persons who, does A, B, and C, and this person does D, E, F, but DEF still got the job done, but the algorithm says only ABC gets the job done. Well, now we have a bias towards ABC.
Yeah.
And so the system itself is going to lean towards that bias. So we need to have, it's essential that these companies, as they integrate these new, more intelligent, more advanced AI systems, that they also have the checks and balances, the HR teams or the TA, teams put in place to monitor what's going on, to keep it fair and to keep it unbiased.
Yeah. And so like for those oversight systems you mentioned, like having a unit within HR, we have a number of DEI professionals here with us right now, as well as, who listen to this podcast. And they might have some feelings about kind of like the people that are part of that oversight, and I guess like my question for you is, have you seen this in your practice, or is this still evolving where there's a blend. It's almost like a multidisciplinary team where you've got, an HR representative, someone maybe internal who's skilled with it, just that bigger vision of the diversity, equity, and inclusion goals that you're working to achieve. Maybe legal folks, just making sure that things are in compliance. Like, do you have a recommendation of what that oversight team would look like, or just
Right.
kind of the different levels of expertise that might be helpful just to say, hey, I think we need to mold this a little bit more because we've got an issue brewing that's kind of promoting bias and kind of out of alignment with our values.
No, I think that it is like everything else, you got to have diversity around the table. Like, I don't care what role, what group, what you're doing, whether you're in marketing, sales, HR, whatever the case may be, corporate leadership, you need to have diversity around the table so that everyone's ideas can be heard and everyone's perspectives can be seen, right? So when you're putting together these committees, these persons who's going to be monitoring the systems, it needs to be diverse as the people who are going to be applying to the systems. Like, it needs to be as diverse as the employees within the organization. The worst thing you can do is to have a committee of one central gender, one central race, whatever the case may be, trying to monitor and keep a system unbiased, because that in itself is a bias, right? Because all those persons of the same cultural and demographic background are going to have generally the same cultural and demographic biases. And so you're not helping yourself by having a mirrored committee. You need to have a committee that is diverse as the population of your organization and as the population of what you want your organization to look like, right? Many times we may have organizations that are not as diverse as we need them to be. In fact, there's very few organizations that are as diverse as they should be. But we can work hard to put the checks and balances in place to make that part look diverse, to make that part look like it has a strong sense of inclusion. And that in itself will, by osmosis, is going to cause there to be proper bias and proper inclusion going on. Because as that committee monitors what's going on, what one person may flag in the algorithm as not being biased, someone else with a different background will be like, nah, because that doesn't apply to people on my side. So
Yeah.
that's gonna filter out everyone over here. And that may just be an innocent oversight by someone who may not understand that from their vision, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have a committee that looks as diverse as the people who are going to be applying for it, and which would your company look like.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I was just thinking, like, I was wearing a budget hat for a second of thinking, just that example that you shared earlier where what AI can do is like cut down on that wait time, cut down on, bringing in an outside company to do your employee engagement survey, to do the analysis of it, to do the presentation of it. A year goes by, and you finally get that information from that point in time.
Exactly.
So you save a lot of money, right? Because you're not bringing in these outside folks or adding more staff to do that work. And it's almost like with those additional resources, it's investing in these oversight systems with people internally where that is their job. It's not kind of
Yep.
a volunteer where I'm the IT person and I'm volunteering on the DEI committee. They're getting paid to do
Right.
that, right? So it's almost like, for folks that are listening now, it's like, okay, we're going to save some money here, like reinvest it in doing that kind of oversight so that you can get out ahead of some of the pitfalls that Shane is alerting us to, right?
Right.
So I think that's really, really smart. And so the last question that I have for you, and then we'll kind of end the live stream and we'll go into private Q&A with our members, is just like, the show is about, imagining belonging. And, as you imagine the future of work, what's maybe one action that you would want for folks here, for our broader audience to take to ensure that AI-driven DEI solutions are responsible and promote that safety, trust, and belonging that we want to see more of in our workplaces?
I think for the vision for the future for myself is participate, right? When your companies send out these surveys, when they send out uh, cultural evaluations, participate in it, right? Because again, the systems, these AI systems that are being put in place, they are intelligent. They literally, AI means artificial intelligence. It's learning what's being said. So if we have the same defeated attitude that it doesn't matter what I say, I don't have to respond to this, company's not going to do nothing, everything's going to be the same, then the system can't learn what's going on. The system can't learn where things are slipping, right?
Mhm.
So participate in these rollouts, participate in these surveys, participate in these evaluations, really speak your mind, really say what's going on, and allow the system to learn from that. Because the data that's going to be generated from that is going to be what's going to be used to help create the culture within the organization. So say what you want to see done, say what's bothering you about what's going on, really be open and trust that this new evolution in workplace technology is going to be an evolution that can actually start to generate more impactful turnarounds and change within companies, right? And it is essentially going to help companies retain more people. Because if you have a complaint and you put it in the evaluation and you don't see anything for the next year, you're going to leave the organization, right? But now with companies, we're talking about 30-day turnaround. So within 90 days, you can start to see companies start implementing changes within the company. You then feel more comfortable with that company. You want to be in the company longer. You want to see where things are going to go. So all I would ask is just participate and say how you really feel. That way you can really have systems that really learn what's really going on within the culture of a company, and you can really start to generate a true company of belonging and inclusion.
I love that. Yeah. So I hope everyone took that down. Participate. That is your invitation to influence company culture. And Shane, I feel like if we just all took that clip that of what you just said and shared that before asking, inviting in employee feedback, I think that would really generate more people to
Yeah,
feel inspired to do the thing, right? And to
yeah.
recognize what the power of their voice, particularly if a company listens and responds to it in a
Mhm.
meaningful way, right? So I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who's tuned into the live stream and really encourage people to apply some of the lessons learned into your daily practice. That's what this is all about. So if you enjoyed the conversation, if you want to connect with Shane real time, like our members are about to do, go ahead and check the Belonging Membership Community out at belongingmembershipcommunity.com. Okay, thanks so much. And for everyone who's participated on social media, thanks for growing the Belonging movement. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. All right.